שלום, ברוכים הבאים לפסטיבל חיפה 37. אני מנהיים, אני עורכת ספרות בהוצאת כנרת זמורה דביר, ואני כאן עם השחקן שילינג, שמגלם את פביאן בסרט, פביאן על פי תסריט של ערך קסטנר בספרו, שיצא לאחרונה בעברית גם בשם אל האבדון בהוצאת ספריית פועלים, ואני אשוחח עם השחקן שילינג על תפקידו כפביאן בסרט. אני מקווה שתהנו, סרט מוקרן כעת בפסטיבל, אתם מוזמנים ומומלץ אף לצפות בו, ואנחנו נתראה בסוף השיחה בעברית שוב. ועכשיו אני רוצה לומר thank you very much to the actor Shilling for joining me tonight, whenever it is that you're watching it. It's tonight now when we're doing this conversation. And we're here to talk about your role as Fabian in the movie Fabian Going to the Dogs by Dominic Groff, the director. And it's based on the novel Fabian by Erich Kästner.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining me. The movie is showing now during the festival, but the book just came out in Israel in a new translation. So it's also available to Hebrew readers who wish to read the book. And it's a great favorite of mine. Erich Kästner is actually very famous and well known here in Israel, but mainly for his children's books, not so much for his more adult novels. So I think it's a very interesting introduction for anyone who wishes to, immerse himself more in the work of this author and also this director, the wonderful director Dominic Groff. And I want to take you back to the beginning, like the very, very beginning of the movie. We start with this shot, which is completely modern. We're in the underground and we're seeing contemporary travelers about to board the train, coming off the train. And then there's a big long tracking shot that takes us outside of the train station, and we find ourselves in 1931. And I think from that moment on, it's very clear that the movie is trying to create very strong links between the past and the present. And I was wondering for you how you see this link, this connection between the past that is depicted in the novel and in the movie and present day Germany or the world as it is today?
Many questions.
I know.
Somehow.
I'm sorry.
But trying to answer very personal. As an actor, I'd say everything every role I play is kind of modern because it always feels dear to me and close to me. And if I feel like I'm playing an ancient play or something like that, maybe there's a gap between my inner emotions, my feelings and what I play. So when I approach a character, it feels always like the present, and my personal taste for films that, have this kind of museum-like feel is not too big. I prefer films where maybe the period doesn't have such a big, doesn't play such a big role. Still, it can have a big impact on the characters because the times were quite hard. Like I wouldn't say now, but the society was kind of, it was some kind of uncertainty. There was a divided society. Things were falling apart somehow. And that impacts, of course, the character I play, and the personal life of those roles we try to play.
Because I've looked through your filmography and I saw that you've played a few characters that were not of this era. From it was, I think, the Otto, the king or the emperor, right up to, you made a film about the Baader Meinhof gang. So it's not your first time in a period role.
Yeah.
And I was interested in how you felt that you brought yourself to this part. As you said, you had to feel that it's you, it's not some kind of ancient character. Did you have to do any kind of research for the part, read about the time or the period, or about the author's life? Is there any kind of preparation that you do when you take on a role of a person from another time?
The connection is not too well, but I try to answer your question as I understood it. So the question was about the preparation, if there's a specific preparation for a period role. Yeah, I mean, there could be, but if I know nothing about the Weimar Republic, I certainly have to do some research on politics, on society, on economics, and everything. But since I did a lot of work on that beforehand for other films, I don't have to necessarily stretch that part of the, of the world of this character, but I can kind of emphasize different other aspects of the role. For example, how it is to write, what it is, what he wants to do, because actually he wants to be an author, he wants to be a writer, and not to do commercials for a tobacco factory. I could emphasize this, or what I did, I really needed to get along with the lines, because sometimes it's quite hard or difficult for an actor to speak those lines which are coming out of a book. So sometimes you hear Eric Kästner is a great author and writer, but still the sound is different. Sometimes you hear our ear in films is so much trained to this everyday talk language, So, and if there's a character speaking those words out of the novel, somehow it sounds, or there is the big how do you say, you could fall into the trap that it sounds wooden or like paper. Artificial, pathetic. And so you really have to, it's really about finding the right sound for those words. And that was basically it. And on top, what's even as important as this is to really get close to your fellow actors. And which means like, what we understand when we're talking about team bonding in a factory, or I don't know where. Team bonding. So get to know each other, spend time, and try to get away of all your shyness and everything.
And I think the chemistry between you and the actress that's portraying Cornelia, the object of Fabian's love, Saskia Rosendahl is her name.
Yes.
You have wonderful, wonderful chemistry. And I think it really transformed this story that is very political. It's a political satire, and it transforms it into a love story, which I thought was very poignant and illuminated other aspects of the novel that I didn't think about when I read it for the first time many, many years ago. But I thought that you were a perfect Fabian. I couldn't imagine him any other way now, because I think you, in the novel, he's very passive. He's an observer. He's only watching this Sodom and Gomorrah in front of his eyes. And you have this piercing gaze and you look at everything, but there's also a lot of energy, desperate energy underneath that is very, very poignant, and I think makes the book, which is a little cold, it's not very emotional, but I think your performance delivers a lot of that emotion into the movie, and it was a wonderful adaptation for me. It wasn't trying to copy the book, but it was giving it new life and new energy. And I was wondering, he's very pessimistic, Fabian, the character. He says that he doesn't think this world is worthy of saving.
Yeah.
And when you said the words in the film, I believed you.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you really feel that way, and if you feel that movies like these can also carry a warning, and somehow have a flashing red light that warns us of what may happen if we only watch and not try and influence the world.
Well, I feel that if there is ability of a movie to make a flash red light, to make a warning, to speak out a warning, I'm as fatalistic and negative as as the main role, Fabian, and then I would like it wouldn't be seen by the people who should see it, but still, I mean, it talks about how you feel, and if I watch the film, I feel like, oh, there's somebody who feels like me, Now you can say like, yeah, but I mean, I don't really believe in the power of films to change people, apart from, doing stupid propaganda,
Yeah.
Because mostly it's inside you, and it resonates through a film, and you feel like, oh, I'm understood, or I feel the same, or I don't believe in someone who really changes like 180 degrees, because he had seen a film. I hope so, but
I think Erich Kästner would agree, because I think he was also a great pessimist, and I think it also carries through in the novel and in the film. He wants to be an author, but he writes stupid commercials that the only influence that you can have through your words is to make people buy stuff, buy more cigarettes. And he stays with the cigarette in his mouth, even when he jumps into the lake at the end. We're not going to spoil the end, but he's not taking this thing out of his mouth. Even, the commercial's working on him too. But I think from that perspective, it's an interesting interpretation of the past, and the fact that you feel like it's like in the first shot of the movie, the past is always underneath us. We're always, it's down there underneath our feet, and it's present. And I think if not changed, then at least perspective, maybe it can offer us some perspective of our present.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
Did you know the novel before shooting? Have you read it before?
No, I read the script first. I got the offer right away from Dominic Graf, who really wanted to do it with me for some reason. He felt like I'm his single choice, actually. He said once to me that he only wanted to do it with me, which is quite flattering and scary at the same time, you know, because if somebody someone really desperately wants to work with you and sees you in this role, then you feel like, oh, I don't know, can I give everything to the part that he wants me to put into the part? Or on the other hand, you could like think maybe he just wants me for the part because he had seen it in another part just like that, but I don't want to repeat myself as an actor. So different kind of thoughts going through my mind beforehand. But I read the script and I really liked the love story, which is, and now I want to answer your question. No, I haven't read the book beforehand. I read it afterwards and figured out the love story is much more shorter than in the film. The film almost reminds me on the unbearable light, no, unbearable. Yes. Yeah. This marvelous film, also about politics and love and society and love. Great film. So we kind of did stretch it into this kind of film, which I really like.
Yeah, me too.
The book, for me, I couldn't, you know, I read the book because I thought maybe I can I can dig somehow deeper, but for what I was looking for, I couldn't find it.
And I think also the fact that you focus so much on the love story. And again, I think that you have such wonderful screen chemistry that carries the narrative, the love narrative. It's kind of the hope that is missing somehow in the book is there in the film. It's not realized, it doesn't happen, there's no happy ending. But when she sits there alone at the end and she says, I'm going to be here every day at 3 o'clock, you feel your heart breaks. And this doesn't happen in a novel. I think this is something that the movie was able to do to touch audience in a way that the novel doesn't try to. It tries.
It's so wonderful. I love it.
Something else.
I love it so much. The moment I said that, that's Dominic Graf, you know, that's our director. He's
very, very, very fine. And it's not, it's very understated. Nothing is like slapped in your face. And it's important to maybe say that the movie is not a short one. It's a long film, but you don't feel the time passing at all. It's like you have the train arriving in the beginning. It's very, very fast. And the movie just tags along to the train and it just flies and you don't feel the passage of time. It was a wonderful watch, although it's heart-wrenching sometimes and it's not, you know, lighthearted, but it was a wonderful film to watch. And I just have two more questions. We recently saw the last days of the Weimar Republic with the television series Babylon Berlin. And it has a much more flamboyant, decadent, colorful way of showing the city in the exact same times. And I was wondering what you felt about the difference between these two pieces, because they're both taking place at the same time period. And it's not been shown a lot in film and television for, you know, audiences outside of Germany.
I have just seen 2 episodes, the first and the second episode of Babylon. It's like you said, you know, I think this Sky series for German television, but internationally screened and screened is it's a bit of an entertainment thing, you know. It's like a big circus, and it's like an event show on Weimar Republic somehow, and I think we're doing something a bit more mature and deep, you know. Maybe that's the difference. I mean, we didn't have actually it's the complete opposite, because I think they had at least 2.5 million for one episode, which is 45 minutes, and we had, I don't know, probably the amount of money for 3 hours film. That's why we shot in 4:3. 4:3. Yeah, it's almost a square. Yeah, that we don't have to show everything. We don't, because, which also means where's a good thing hidden, because if you can't show everything, you don't tend to show off. You know, you don't show off with your with your scenery and with your costumes and everything. No.
And I think it gives the movie a very realistic feeling to it.
Yes, direct.
Yeah, it's very ragged. It's not smooth and it's not polished. And there's this scene when he's smoking outside the factory, and this guy comes in, he snaps the cigarettes out of his mouth and just keeps on walking. And everything feels very, very much alive, very much contemporary, and not, as you say, a circus. And I loved it about it because at times I got confused and I didn't know if I was watching something that happened in 1931 or is it happening today. And I think
that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
And I'm not again going to spoil the ending for those of you who haven't read the book yet and haven't watched the movie, but the ending. After the ending, we hear a recording from the radio, and it was striking for me that we're talking on the eve of the Jewish New Year, and the movie ends at the eve of the Jewish New Year. It says there's some kind of announcement about a big rally of the Nazis, and it's happening on Jewish New Year, and this is Jewish New Year, so the movie ends on the day that we're recording this session. And you have this amazing image of the book, the notebook that Fabian's writing the whole time, and it's catching flames and it's burning up. And then you see this big pyre of books burning. And actually, sorry, Kessner was the only author that was present when the Nazis burned the books in Berlin, the big book burning of 1933. He was the only author that came to see his books burning. But Fabian wasn't one of them. It wasn't published during his lifetime. It was only published after his death because they tried to censor it very heavily, and he wouldn't have it published in its censored form. And I think, and I think the last thought that I had when I finished watching was I was wondering what he would think about the fact that his book is living on and is getting this interpretation and this really developed form of storytelling that was very new at his time. And I think he would have loved it. I think it has a lot of the bitter humor that the book has, but also a lot of the humanity that that he knew how to put into his works.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I thought it was a wonderful and very different adaptation of the story. A lot of times movies are very afraid when they come to adapt a very important work, and I felt that you were fearless, and I loved it.
You have to be fearless with with a great book. You have to be as ruthless and fearless as possible, but loving.
Yeah. So you have to twist the truth a little bit to get to the real truth behind it.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's almost the hardest part of filmmaking to make make a film out of a great book, of a book that means so much to some people.
And for me, I think that you've done it wonderfully. And I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And again, thank you for the wonderful performance in the movie.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for speaking to you.
So good night to you. And good night to all our viewers here in Israel, whenever it is that you're watching this conversation. אז שוב תודה לכם שצפיתם בנו, and thank you for Tom Shilling for joining me. ואני מאחלת לכם צפייה מהנה בסרט וקריאה מענגת בספר והשוואה מרתקת בין שניהם. אז אני הייתי מנהיים, וערב טוב לכולכם מפסטיבל הקולנוע 37 בחיפה. תודה.